Shavua Tov, everyone. I'm happy to see everyone. We're going to continue from last week. I hope everyone is doing well. Bezrat Hashem. Those who are not, I know there are some who are sick at home. As refuah shlema. As I mentioned last week I said we're going to skip from chapter 4 to chapter 6, from Perek Dalet to Perek Vav. And the reason is because Perek Hey, the 5th chapter, talks about economic reforms, social reforms that really interfere with the story of building the wall. As you recall, last week we discussed all of the problems that Nechemia and the Jewish people had building the walls. All the threats and the fake news that was happening, all the surrounding nations, Sanballat and Geshem Ha'aravi, and all those who were, trying to stop the building. And then in the middle of all this, in chapter 5, in Perek Hey, all of a sudden, we have a chapter that is disconnected completely to the story. So we're going to skip over it, and hopefully, Bezrat Hashem, next week we'll go back to it. But we're going to skip the Perek Vav, the 6th chapter, because the 6th chapter is a direct continuation to the story of Perek Dalet. Okay? So please open up in Perek Vav, Pasuk Aleph. Okay? Yofi. So let's backtrack where we are. So Nechemia is close to successfully completing his great mission, which is the construction of the walls of Yerushalayim. And during this time, Tzarei Yehuda, we mentioned there are those who don't want to see Jewish autonomy, Jewish independence, which is headed by Sanballat, Tuvia, and Geshem Ha'aravi. And these individuals with their people, they're trying to act in sophisticated ways to disrupt Nechemiah's mission. Nechemia, up until now, has been able to enlist the support of the Persian king and the local officials, as we saw in the text. And he organized and encouraged all of the Jewish people, literally families, complete, to aid in the difficult task of building a wall in record time because of everything that was going on with these nations around. And he was able to even prove to these settlers, to Shavei Tzion, those who came to Yerushalayim, that he is an attentive leader. He cares about their economic distress. And that's what we're going to see basically next week in Perek Hey. And also, I think Nechemia showed that he's capable of working to alleviate all of the Jewish hardships and their fears. Now, Sanballat, who's going to be one of the key stars of our Perek Vav, Sanballat recognizes his weaknesses when it comes to Nechemia. The biggest weakness that he has is that Nechemia has the Persian authorities on his side. And Sanballat, we know he doesn't want a wall built in Yerushalayim. But he also knows that because Nechemia is close to the Persian king, then the Persian Empire wouldn't be really happy with a direct attack by his people on the Jewish settlers, on these Mityashvim, on these Shavei Tzion, who settled all of a sudden in the countryside of Yerushalayim, with the full approval of the Persian authorities. So what does Sanballat do? So Sanballat tries to take a different course of action to deter Nechemia and threaten him with the hopes that it will undermine his self-confidence and possibly pull the Persian support away from him, right? When Artaxerxes sees hears what's going on in Yerushalayim and his unsuccess, not being successful to actually build a wall that he wanted to build, which was one of the reasons why he was sent in the first place. So Sanballat is hoping to create some type of rift. How is he going to manage this? What is his plan? By producing fake news. So Sanballat addresses Nechemia as if he is interested in creating a joint government. That's what he basically is going to be doing in this perek. He's making believe he wants to sit down and have a government with left and right, everybody in the middle. Mamash, what we just experienced this past year. So Sanballat says, let's do the same. We'll get everybody on board. We'll all sit together. But really, we know the true intentions of Sanballat. He basically wants to sit together and figure out a way to lead all of the people, the Jewish people, the Shomronim, Samaritans, the Ashdodim, the Ammonim. Everybody should sit in one government. That's what he says he wants. But we're going to really see this in this chapter, what's really going on. So let's start Perek Vav, Pasuk Aleph. Vayi ka'asher leSanbalat v'Tovia v'leGeshem ha'Aravi uliyeter oiveinu, right? Nechemia is talking here. Ki vaniti et hachoma ve'lo notar ba'peretz gam ad ha'et hahi dlatot lo ha'emanti b'she'arim. Sanbalat, Tovia, and Geshem, and the rest of the enemies, says Nechemia, they heard that we finished building the walls of Yerushalayim, and that there were no more any gaps or holes left in the wall, meaning it's a secure stronghold, it's a fortress, right? Although, says Nechemia, he didn't finish completely, still he has some of the doors left, some of the gates, he didn't close it yet, which is basically symbolically the last thing you do to really close and shut out all of his enemies. Pasuk Bet. What does Sanballat do when he sees? I mean, he saw that everything he tried until now didn't work. He sees that, bluffing with empty threats didn't work. Small stabbings here and there that we saw last week, they don't deter Nechemia and the Jewish people. Nechemia was very smart. If you recall, he made sure that each family basically took part of the wall that is closest to their home, so they would feel comfortable, so they would feel that they're defending their home, which is very important. So what does Sanballat do to enhance his mission to stop all and halt all of the building? Pasuk Bet. Vayishlach Sanballat veGeshem elai lemor. Nechemia is saying that Sanballat and Geshem sent me a message. What was the message? The middle of Pasuk Bet. Lecha v'niva'ada yachdav b'kfirim bebik'at ono. Heima choshvim la'asot li ra'ah. So Sanballat and Geshem, not Tovia, Sanballat and Geshem, they send a messenger to Nechemia. And they want to meet with Nechemia in one of the villages called Bik'at Ono. Now, Nechemia is revealing to us at the end of Pasuk Bet, I know that this is a trick. I know this is a trick of theirs to try to harm me. That's what Nechemia is telling us. Sanballat sends messengers to Nechemia with an important message. Come, let's meet, a joint conference. But Sanballat doesn't hear from Nechemia. Nechemia must have some good reason to assume the worst. I mean, we know it's obvious. He did his homework. Sanballat is no friend. In fact, he remembers, you recall, he also remembers what happened the first few days after he arrived to Yerushalayim, when Sanballat said he can't stand anything good happening to the Jewish people. Right? We saw that. It was one of the hardest psukim to read. At least I thought so. So therefore, he's not tempted to meet Sanballat. He's not going to go to the summit. He's not going to go up to this conference. He's not going to go up to this great grand meeting that Sanballat says that he wants to do. But at the same time, he's very, very careful. Nechemia is very careful not to provoke Sanballat. A politician needs to know to stand strong on his own beliefs, but at the same time, not push too hard. He doesn't want to create battle. He knows what these people are capable of. So he finally replies to the message sent to him by Sanballat in Pasuk Gimel. What does he say? He says the following: Va'eshlecha aleihem malachim lemor. Melacha gedola ani oseh. Velo uchal laredet. Lama tishbat hamelacha kasher arpea v'yaradeti aleichem. נחמיה basically says in Pasuk Gimel, look, I'm doing important work. I can't go down there now to this. I can't go up to the summit. I can't meet you with all of your people. I'm not gonna let the work, this important work that we're doing, stop just to go ahead and see you. So Nechemia's answers basically contains, I think, two important messages that he's relaying as a politician. We got to think politics now. Unfortunately, or some people think it's unfortunate, some people say it's fortunately, what's happening in our government now with new elections coming out, and now we're going to start hearing all the promises in the world. We're going to hear this party promises this one, this promises this one says this one, I'm not going to do, I am going to do, and of course, we all know that most of the time, they're not really telling us the truth. We just saw that in the last 5 elections. It's so unfortunate, so sad. Politicians will always be politicians. In order to get what they want, they will say what is needed at the time. So we're going to learn today, who is Nechemia? What kind of a politician is Nechemia? Is he straight? Is he a straight arrow? Does he say what he means? Does he mean what he says? So when he says to Sanballat, he knows Sanballat's what Sanballat's interested in. He's interested in stopping and halting all a work in Yerushalayim, and he's willing to do whatever it takes. But Nechemia, as a politician, doesn't want to make things worse. So he says this pasuk that we just read, and I think there are 2 messages here. Number 1, he says, look, Sanballat, I'm immersed in a great task, and I cannot abandon it, not even for a moment, until it is finished. So number 1, he's reinforcing how he believes that building the wall is important, and he's not willing to stop, which he knows is exactly what his opposition wants, what Geshem and what Sanballat want him to do. So that's number 1. He's very politically correct, diplomatically saying, look, I might want to meet you, but I will do that only after I finish the wall, which is really the whole reason why Sanballat wants to meet him. When the mission is completed, he says, when the walls of Yerushalayim are completed, then I will let you know and we can meet. That's what he's basically saying. So he's saying, number 1, I want to finish the wall. Number 2, I do want to meet. So now if Sanballat retaliates, if Sanballat takes action, well, Nechemia can say, I never said I didn't want to meet. I want to meet. I just want to finish, first I'm in the middle of this, important task. I can't stop in the middle. So that's how he's basically answering Sanballat. Now we know what Sanballat's going to answer back. He doesn't want him to continue building the wall. The whole idea is for him to stop building the wall. And we see in Pasuk Dalid, in the 4th Pasuk, how he is relentless. Pasuk Dalid, Vayishlichu elai kadavar hazeh 4 pe'amim. So he says, they sent me the same message. Nechemia tells us. Sanballat sent me the same message. Let's meet 4 different times. 4 times. And each time, va'ashivotam kadavar hazeh. Each time that he sent me this message 4 times, I just returned the same exact thing. Look, I want to meet. I really, really do, but let me just finish building the wall. Now, we discussed in previous shiurim why it was important for Nechemia to build this wall very, very quickly. The main reason being is because he wanted to ensure that he finishes building the wall before Sanballat, Geshem, and Tovia can send a message to Artaxerxes, before Artaxerxes can see what was going on, and then send back a new declaration saying that they must stop building the wall until he can find peace. So they want to finish building the wall. So he doesn't want to halt anything. He also knows that the whole reason why the summit was created in the first place was so that he stops. He doesn't want to stop, but his message is, I do want peace. I do want this summit to happen, but when I'm done. So Sanballat, he doesn't want to wait any longer. and he finally decides to go one step further. He's not happy after he sends one messenger after the other, and Nechemia is aware that Sanballat wants to prevent this building at all costs, the completion of this wall. And why does he want to? Well, the main reason we discussed is since a wall basically establishes facts on the ground, right? The Jewish people in Yerushalayim will have sovereignty, capable of defending themselves, stripping away the money and the power that Sanballat was used to having. That's what's really happening here, right? If they complete building the wall, then they can run their own shuk, they could run their own economy, they could run their own way of living, and they can shut everyone out. Sanballat doesn't want that. Sanballat wants to be involved in everything, because I could only guess, since he's a very established family and money was very much part of every deal that happened in Yerushalayim because of the Beit HaMikdash, gold and silver. And if you recall, Koresh and Artaxerxes, they all gave a lot to the Beit HaMikdash, the Kohanim. Later on, we'll see historically with the Maccabim and the Chashmonaim, where they bought the Kihuna because it was considered such a great job to have. So I can understand why, at all costs, Sanballat wants to stop it, because when money is involved, people are willing to do anything and everything, even killing, even taking people's lives. You know, sitting on the chair and enjoying lots and lots of abundance of money and gold and silver is very powerful. But Nechemia is very careful not to say this directly, that he knows why Sanballat wants him to stop building the wall. So he chooses at this stage just to postpone the meetings with the people of Sanballat, knowing that they are preparing a trap for him. He knows he's not, he's a politician. I mean, don't forget, he also worked as the cupbearer for Artaxerxes, and I can only assume that as a cupbearer, giving the wine and alcohol to the king meant that he was open constantly to people trying to trap him and trip him up all the time to try to get to the king. So he knows, he can foresee this type of behavior. So he knows if the same guy, Sanballat, sends messages 4 times again and again, something's happening, and he needs to prepare for that. But he doesn't really know what kind of a trap. Is it going to be in the form of an assassination, right? Or by creating an image of a leader who is weak, who needs to get his hands dirty with ties with the opposition, right? Sometimes when you feel that your party is not strong enough, you'll make deals with the other side, you make deals with another party, even though you might not want to lechatchila, but you have no choice because you need to create a stronghold. You want to create something that you won't be able to defeat it. So here too, the problem is, as we all saw what happened this year, again, everyone, with their own political agendas and their political opinion, we saw that there were people that made deals with other parties that they didn't necessarily want to be part of, but they did it only to be strong, so they continue being able to do their work. So Nechemia knows that there are 2 options, that Sanballat will either try to assassinate him, to remove him from the equation completely, or to weaken him by forcing him to come up to meet him, Geshem, and Tovia, and make deals with them, which basically sends a message to the Jewish people, Nechemia is not strong enough to stand on his own. He's not strong enough to lead. He needs these other 3 characters in order to defend the Jewish people. He needs these 3 characters in order to bring the economy up. That's what Sanballat, those 2 possibilities that are happening here. And that's what Nechemia really needs to prepare for. And this rings a bell, like I said, of everything that's going on in our politics today, in our Knesset. It's unreal that these things have been going on forever. 2,500 years ago, happened, with Nechemia. We see this with Sanballat, Tovia, and Geshem. So after not succeeding 4 times, finally Sanballat sends a 5th request. But this 5th request is no longer by just a messenger with a message. Rather, let's read inside Pasuk Hey. וישלח אלי סנבלת כדבר הזה פעם חמישית, the fifth time, right? Et naro, he sends his nar, his own personal servant, right? Not just a messenger, but his personal servant to show how real it is. V'igeret ptucha beyado. Let's focus on that word, igeret ptucha beyavo. A form that was unsealed, an unsealed letter. What does it mean, unsealed? Usually, if you were a governor or a king, sent a sealed letter, a message to somebody, it can't be opened, because if you open it, everyone knows that it's opened, and then the governor, the king, could go out on a killing spree because someone touched his personal words. So no one ever dared open a sealed letter from the king or from a governor. But here he purposely sent an open letter, meaning it wasn't sealed, allowing everybody and anyone to read its contents. What were the contents? Let's see inside. Katuv ba, pasuk vav. This is what it said. Bagoim nishma vegashmu. Bagoim nishma vegashmu omer, ata ve'ayehudim choshvim limrod al ken ata boneh החומה. ואתה הווה להם למלך כדברים האלה. I'll read one more pasuk. וגם נביאים העמדת לקרוא עליך בירושלים לאמור, מלך ביהודה ואתה ישמע למלך כדברים האלה, ואתה לך וניוועצה יחדיו. So Sanballat, whose time is ticking, right? The more he waits, the more Nechemia continues to build, fortify, and create. So Sanballat is trying for the fifth time to persuade Nechemia to meet him. But this time, like I said, he sends an open letter, open, unsealed letter, that everyone in the vicinity knows what its content and what is written inside. And this is what he says inside. I'll just translate. This is what it read. Geshem tells me, Sanballat is saying that Geshem tells me that a rumor is going around among the neighboring people that you and the Jewish people intend to revolt. And this is why you are building a wall. He also says that you plan in making yourself king. You want to become the king of Judea. And that you have arranged for some prophets to proclaim Yerushalayim, to say that you are the king of Yehuda. Now, of course, the Persian king certainly going to hear about this. So I suggest that you and I meet to talk the situation over. Sanballat tells him that rumors are developing. And even Geshem Ha'aravi is already saying, not me, God forbid, Sanballat, I'm on your side, Nechemia, but I heard Geshem saying that the Jews and Nechemia, you above all, are planning to rebel against the Persian kingdom. Anoint a king and claim independence. This fifth message is very different from all of the other four. Sanballat is warning Nechemia as if he is a true friend. And he's warning him all the rumors that have already begun to spread and circulate. Then he says, even if it's not true, even if these rumors are not true, they could still lead the Persian government to halt all Jewish activity and forbid any more construction and a pursuit for religious independence. We know that was why Ezra was sent down, and that's one of the reasons Nechemia came down as well. Now, Sanballat is very careful and says that it is not he who started, or God forbid, spread these rumors, but rather Geshem Ha'aravi, he did. Amazing. It's like conniving, like you wouldn't believe. What Sanballat is hiding, of course, is that these rumors basically are fake news. Fake news. There are no rumors. There's no such rumors. Rumors don't exist, except for those that he himself just wrote down in this letter that is open for the public to read, that Nechemia is reading now for the first time, ensuring that everyone hears them. What cruelty and sophistication at the same time. Pretty amazing. And now, go prove who started these rumors. Go prove who spread these rumors. Because he basically defended himself. No matter what happens now, Sanballat can say, look, I'm warning you of these rumors. Of course I didn't make up these rumors. I'm warning you. I heard that Geshem was the one who started them, or he heard about them. Which, by the way, is putting Geshem now to be an enemy, Ke'ilu, of Sanballat, trying to show Nechemia that he wants to pair up with Nechemia, maybe against Geshem. Pretty unbelievable. There's nothing Nechemia can do about this now. Sanballat reiterates his proposal to Nechemia. And he says, look, the best thing for you now is for you and me to meet. Let's hold a joint political conference, a summit with me, you. Let's bring in Geshem too. Maybe he can shed light on what's going on here in order to offer advice on what the best thing for you to do. I'm on your side, Sanballat says, right? These rumors are terrible. It could jeopardize the attitude of the authorities of the Persian kingdom, the empire, on everything you're trying to do on the land of Yehuda. So what would you all do? How would you all here right now in our shiur, what would you do? How would you respond? It seems like no matter what you do, you'll lose. If you say no, I'm not going to, right? Then basically you're ke'ilu saying, I don't want to have, you're offering peace, you're offering an olive branch, and I'm not interested. It makes you look bad. That's what it looks like. You know, some guy, Sanballat, who's very powerful, the governor of the Shomron, is coming with an olive branch saying, look, I want to help you. I want to help you. I want to help you against all these rumors, terrible rumors. You say no, it's as if you're creating the rift, as if you are starting the rift. But really, Nechemia has done nothing. And if he says, okay, let's go up the summit, it only shows that he's afraid of all these rumors, that it might be true. So Sanballat is presenting himself to be a friend of Nechemia, a friend of the Jews. One who cares and is trying to help. But in reality, he is the worst kind of enemy. He makes himself seen as your best friend, caring about you, doing everything he can to help you, protecting you. But really, he is the one who conceived this whole big plan. He's the one who started the rumors in the first place. He's the one who created them from nothing. That's who Nechemia is now up against in this big political arena of Yehuda. And these things are happening right in front of us in Knesset Israel constantly. People making up stories about one another. You never know what's true, what's not true. You don't know who's telling the truth. Backdoor deals just because people are afraid they might lose the vote. What is Nechemia going to do? Nechemia does not get confused. He doesn't let it get to his head. And this time, he decides to attack Sanballat directly. So let's read Psukim Chet and Tet and see how he answers and how he attacks Sanballat this time. After he heard all this from this personal na'ar, from the personal servant of Sanballat, now everyone is talking about this, right? Because it was it was not sealed, the letter. So everyone is talking about the rumors about how the Jews and Nechemia are trying to rebel against the Persian Empire, and I'm sure it's making its way right now to the Persian Empire. Okay. By the way, that's just Lashon Hara 101. That's how it started, right? Somebody just makes up a lie and covers it up with truths, makes you believe that it's really someone else, not him. That's the best form of Lashon Hara. So how does Nechemia respond? Pasuk Chet. Va'eshlecha elav lemor. לא נהיה כדברים האלה, אשר אתה אומר, כי מליבך אתה בודם. כי כולם מייראים אותנו לאמור, ירפו ידיהם מן המלאכה, ולא תעשה, ואתה חזק את ידי. basically, he sends a reply and says, nothing of what you're saying is true, Sanballat. You made it all up. They're just trying to frighten us into stopping our work. But you know what? If you're truly a good friend, make me stronger. Take my side. Fight against these rumors. Be on my side. What Nechemia tells Sanballat can be phrased in simple words like this. There are no more rumors. You fabricated them. You are responsible for the whole thing. If you truly are my friend, Sanballat, strengthen and encourage me instead of dealing with intimidation, which is the usual pattern used by those who oppose Zionism. We know from so many unfortunate scenarios and situations from our past and from the present as well, that intimidation is one of the most powerful ways to ruin everything that we're trying to build Be'eretz Yisrael. I'm going to cut your support. I'm not going to give you the money. We won't vote for you. Intimidation and threats. Don't build in the settlements. Don't build here. Stop going up to Har HaBayit. Threats. Nechemia is well aware of what's going on here. So powerful. He says to Sanballat, you know what? Side with me. Help me in my pursuit. The cards is now on his side of the table, on Sanballat's side of the table. Pasuk Yud. All of a sudden, we're starting to hear outside of Sanballat more really very sad situations that exist amongst the Jewish people themselves. In Pasuk Yud, all of a sudden we stray away for a little bit from Sanballat, and we move into the Jewish problem. When I say a Jewish problem, I really mean a Jewish problem. Up until now, Nechemia is up against non-Jews. He's up against foreign nations. Sanballat, Geshem Ha'amoni, right? And he's dealing with them pretty okay. He's saying, you know what? I'm not going to believe your rumors. I don't care about your rumors. They're all, fake news. I know what you're trying to do. I'm not going to stop. In the beginning, he tries to pair up with them, but not now. Let me finish my work first, hoping that, it'll go over. But now we're going to be learning about something much more tragic. Pasuk Yud. Va'ani vati beit Shema'aya ben Delaya ben Mehi Tav'el v'hu atzur. Vayomer niva'ed el beit ha'Elohim אל תוך ההיכל, ונסגרה דלתות ההיכל, כי באים להורגך לילה, ולילה באים להורגך. So during this whole time that he's trying to deflect from Sanballat, he goes to visit a man by the name of Shemaiah, son of Delaya and grandson of Meitavhel. And I'm just going to translate, who was this Shemaiah was unable to leave his house. He was in a seger. He said to me, says Nechemia, that this Shemaiah character suggested and said, you and I must go hide together in the Kodesh, in the Beit HaMikdash. We must hide together, lock the doors, because I heard a rumor that they are coming for you. They're coming to assassinate you, Nechemia. Any night now, they will come to kill you. Now, it turns out that even within the Jerusalem walls, amongst the Shavei Tzion, amongst the Jewish people, there are those who maintain ties with Sanballat and his people. We do not have a clear picture of the inner Jewish politics and the different parties that might have existed during the time of Nechemia, because let's face it, before Nechemia came, during the time of Ezra was more of a spiritual leader, as we dealt with a lot. So during this time where Ezra was a spiritual leader, there must have been people who were trying to grab power and parties that believed in this and believed in that, those who were for assimilation, or those who were against assimilation, those who wanted to correct and holster the economy. So during this time, there were groups of people that were trying to, I assume, trying to become leaders, because Ezra was not a governor, not in the sense of the physical aspect. He was more of a spiritual leader. So it can be assumed that there was economic interest as well as marriage ties that these people had with Sanballat, because that's why there's intermarriage in the first place, because you had ties. You had Jewish people who were married into Sanballat and Geshems. We saw that from one of the other prakim. Families didn't want or couldn't divorce their non-Jewish wives, so they have these ties between Sanballat and the various Jews. And these Jews who are Jewish on the one hand, on the other hand, they're connected, right, to these foreign governors. They started to, in a very sophisticated way, to be used by Sanballat, trap Nechemia. And one of these people must have been this Shmaya character. We hear about Shmaya, who is detained in his house. So Nechemia goes to visit him. I don't know why he goes to visit him. There's no evidence for why he wanted to visit him, but it's possible that Nechemia heard about Shmaya's isolation in his home, and therefore went to see if he's okay. It also must mean that Shmaya was an important person, right? Maybe one of the leaders before he emerged and came to Yerushalayim. The mere fact that he's mentioned in our psukim with 3 generations, Shmaya ben Delaya ben Mehitavel, means that he has yichus, right? A guy who's got yichus, guy who's been living there for a while, he must have yichus, he must have some power. So maybe that's why Nechemia went to visit him. He heard he's in isolation. He wants to know, why are you in isolation when we're all trying to build and finish building the walls? What's going on? Why are you closing yourself off? You must be an important person. Maybe you even have some power. You're doing the opposite of what I assume you would do. Take my side, something. Either way, Shmaya apparently has a respectable status in Yerushalayim, and Nechemia visits him. Shmaya is not, he's not in house arrest. It doesn't say hu atzur, meaning he's not in house arrest, but maybe a type of seger, a self-seger, not by anybody, but probably to create fear. Meaning atzur, he wants to show everybody, I cannot leave my house. I am afraid to leave my house. Me, Shmaya, important person. Maybe I'm very wealthy. He's trying to show Nechemia, or give the impression, Shmaya is giving the impression that he also, just like Nechemia should be, feels threatened with all of the rumors going around, right? If I told you, and I want to say this, I'll say this very delicately. A lot of us wear masks when we go to shul, right? Some of us might not want to wear masks. Maybe because we feel that masks don't do anything. Maybe because we feel that it's enough. Maybe we feel that we have emunah, and in an open space with the windows open, we feel that a mask doesn't protect me more than all the vaccines that I've taken. Everyone has their own reasons. But when somebody puts a mask on and says, put a mask on, you should put a mask on, you should be, they guilt you into putting a mask on, right? They say, if you don't put a mask, you're putting everybody else in danger. You're scared all of a sudden. So you put a mask on. You might not want to. You can. Again, I'm not going to go into the questions whether we should or we should not. That's the doctors. They're in charge of these things, not me. But we can definitely identify with the fear factor. We can identify with somebody going around and saying, "Look, I'm going to isolate myself because I'm afraid of all these rumors and I'm afraid of what's going on. I hear the Persian army and he's an important person." So he's trying to guilt Nechemia and thinking, wait a minute, if Shmaya is closing himself off, a guy who's got connections, it must be real. And what does Shmaya tell him? He tells Nechemia that he heard about a plot of an assassination plot to the Jewish leader, meaning Nechemia. So Shmaya is telling Nechemia, I heard with all my ties, maybe he's even intermarried with Sanballat, that somebody's out to get you. Nechemia, you'd be smart if you isolate yourself too. I'm afraid for my life. I want you to as well. So what does נחmיה suggest? He suggests to Nechemia that he defend himself by entering the Beit HaMikdash, going into the sacred hall, the Kodesh, not the Kodesh HaKodashim, the Kodesh. No one can go to the Kodesh HaKodashim, everyone knew that, but the Kodesh. Close the doors, lock them, so that the assassins cannot lay their hands on him. That's what he tells Nechemia, trying to spread fear. Now, what is that going to do to Nechemia? This is a test, a great test for Nechemia. If Nechemia closes himself, locks himself up in the Beit HaMikdash, in the Kodesh, what is he proving? He's proving to the people that he is frightened. So frightened that he's committing a serious religious offense, entering the same sacred sphere which is forbidden to non-Kohanim, the Kodesh. It says, Vehazar hakarev yumat. Right? And also, what message is he sending the Jewish people? If I fear for my life, it means that there are other more powerful beings out there that can defeat me. And the morale of the Jewish people will go down. So Nechemia needs to decide what to do. What does he do? He refuses, of course. Let's read Pasuk Yud Aleph and Yud Bet. Va'omra ha'ish kamoni yivrach umi kamoni asher yavo el haichal v'chai lo avo va'akira v'hinei lo Elohim shelacho ki hanevuah diber alai v'tovia v'sanbalat scharo. So how does he answer? He says to him basically that he says, I'm not the kind of person that runs and hides. Do you think that I'm going to try to save myself hiding in the Beit HaMikdash? Are you kidding me? That's not what a leader does. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to sin against God to save my own self? No way. And then when I thought it over, he says, Nechemia is telling us what's going through his mind. When I thought over, the akira, when I thought about it, it made sense. I realized that this is not a nevuah given to Shmaya, but Tovia and Sanballat bribed him to give me this warning. This is a Jew who's tied to Sanballat and Tovia to try to get me. Nechemia guesses that Shmaya was hired by Tovia and Sanballat to entangle him and intimidate him and cause him to fail in the eyes of the Jewish people and in the eyes of God. So Nechemia tells Shmaya that he's not afraid. And of course, entering the Kodesh is not even an option. It's a serious religious offense. So we see, Baruch Hashem, with the keen observation of Nechemia being a good politician and a smart man, another trap was avoided. So they tried to bring him to a summit to assassinate him. He avoided that. And now they're trying to lock him up in the Beit HaMikdash for many, many reasons, to cause fear, also to lock him up so they can take over. And also he succeeds in avoiding that trap as well.
Locking who in the Beit Mikdash?
Nechemia.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. That's what Shmaya is suggesting. Shmaya is saying the only way you can save yourself from assassination is if you lock yourself in the Beit HaMikdash. They won't follow you. They won't kill you in the Beit HaMikdash. But Nechemia knows he's not allowed to go. He's not a Kohen. Hazar hakarev yumat. So twofold, as we mentioned now, Shmaya, basically, Nechemia realizes that he's hired by Sanballat or by Tovia to force Nechemia to, in a way, give up, lock himself in. By doing that, he's instilling fear amongst the Jewish people, and he's sinning against God. Perfect. So Nechemia realizes all this. Now, maybe for the first time, he realizes that danger lurks from within, internalizing an important lesson for the future, one that we still unfortunately have today, that even within our people, the Jewish nation, there are those who oppose Jewish spiritual and honest leadership. and who cooperate with the enemy for money, for power, for a seat at the table. This is not new to our Knesset. It's not new. This is 2,500 years ago. Shma'aya, a Jew, a Yichusdik Jew, wants whatever power he can get, his chair, money, Yichus, whatever it is. So he has ties with Sanballat, trying to do what he can to entangle Nechemia and see it as a downfall. It is so, so sad. Jews presenting themselves as caring and truthful, making themselves out to be honest and real. I'm your best friend. I only have, your best interest in heart, right? Terrible. When really, they're the worst. Nechemia realizes he must be very, very careful, tread carefully, not only against known enemies like Sanballat and Tobiah and Geshem, but tread also people within the Jewish kingdom, within the Jewish community. So sad, but it's happening right in front of our eyes today, and also it happened 2,500 years ago with Nechemia. What is his sin? What is Nechemia's sin? He wants to build a wall for Am Yisrael and Yehuda. He wants to build up Yerushalayim, a place that is owned by the Jewish people. If you recall what he had said in the first place to Sanballat and to Geshem in the previous Prakim in Perek Bet, this is not yours. You don't own this land. This is a Jewish land. And he's getting hell for it, even from with his own people. And we'll see, not just Shma'aya. Nechemia is going to hint to us that there were others that tried to do the same exact thing. Let's continue to read Pasuk Yud Gimel. Leman sachuru, leman ira ve'eseken v'chatati. V'ya lahem l'shem ra, leman yicharfu. They hired him. They hired Shma'aya to frighten me into sinning. I understand that now. So that they could ruin my reputation, so that they can humiliate me. What an intelligent man Nechemia is. He realizes that his enemies, even from within, Shma'aya, another Jew in his community, is trying to ruin him, ruin his reputation, ruin his Shem Tov, right? Humiliate him, make him hide in the Kodesh, make him feel like someone's trying to kill him, all for money, for a chair, for control. For control. That's what it's about. Sanballat wants to control the insides of Yerushalayim, probably for money. He doesn't want it to be closed off and sealed off from him. Pasuk Yudaled, Zachera Elohai leToviah uleSanballat kema'asav eile. וגם לנועדיה הנביאה וליתר הנביאים אשר היו מייראים אותי. So Nechemia prays to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because at the end of the day, you against Risha'im, you against evil people, a good, decent human being will lose. There's nothing Nechemia can really do but pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because the other side, they will do anything and everything until they get what they want. They will lie, they will assassinate, they will kill, they will steal, they will do anything for their cause. A good, decent human being, Nechemia, knows that there's limits that he cannot and never will pass and never go over. So he davens to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He prays to Hashem and he says, Hashem, remember what Toviah and Sanballat have done. Punish them, please. Remember that there is this Nevi'ah. Her name is Noadiah, another person, and all the other prophets that also tried to frighten me. So what we're seeing here, that Shma'aya was just one out of many that tried to do this to Nechemia, tried to ruin him, ruin his reputation. Who knows, even tried to assassinate him. It happened again and again and again. An interesting note, I tried to look up who this Noadiah HaNevi'ah, a woman who's a Nevi'ah. So some Parshanim say it's really meant to be Noadiah HaNavi. There's a mistake here. It should be a Navi. There was no Nevi'ot at this time then. But to me, it doesn't really matter. To me, the context is that it happened many, many times. It wasn't just the one. that there was this group of people that would do anything and everything to get rid of Nechemia, all because he's trying to do good for the Jewish people. That is his biggest sin. Nechemia's biggest sin is that he wants to do good for Am Yisrael in Yerushalayim. They can't have it. They can't have anybody steal their thunder. Nobody else will take over the control. Nobody will take my job. Ma pitom. Impossible. And they will do anything, whatever it takes. Steal, lie, kill, assassinate. And Nechemia realizes it. And that's what he davens to Hashem for. He says, Hashem, I need help. But Pasuk Tetvav shows us that Hashem did, at the end, help him. He did it. He succeeded. Pasuk Tetvav, Vatishlam hachoma ב-25 לאלול ל-52 יום. He succeeded. 52 days of work, the entire wall was finished, and I assume it means that he actually put on the doors of the Choma, because we started off the chapter saying that the doors were missing. Now he succeeds. ויהי כאשר שמעו כל אויבינו, פסוק ט"ז, ויראו כל הגויים אשר סביבותינו, ויפלו מאוד בעיניהם, וידעו כי מאת אלוהינו נעשתה המלאכה הזאת. In his prayers to God, Nechemia mentions, like I said, other enemies among his own people, including people called prophets, these so-called Nevi'im. Nevi'im, who pretend to know and tell, what's going to happen in the future, while in fact, they have a hidden political agenda. Do you know what we call these people? These Nevi'im? You know what I would call these Nevi'im today? I would call them media professionals. I'd call them reporters. That's what I would call them. They have an agenda. They spread their agenda. They spread their ideas across, their opinions across the board, and convince people of truth or lies and fake news. And we're gullible. People who watch the news, who see these news like fire, they're gullible and they believe these things. And then at the end of the day, you don't know what to believe. You're confused. And confusion is one of the strongest powers that exists for a politician. You confuse, you instill fear, and then you come with a solution, people will vote for you. That's what Sanballat is trying to do. He realizes he can't defeat Nechemia with the military because he's got the Persian Empire at his beck and call. And he tried to assassinate him, but Nechemia, is not, is a smart politician. He knows where not to go. So he resorts to using reporters, to using professional media men, to using these Nevi'im, who are spreading these false news, this fake news all over the place. And Nechemia testifies to more connections between the opposition who become his own enemies. This is not news to us. We are so aware of these things. How much hatred do we see in our Knesset among Jews, members of Knesset? They are constantly spreading lies and rumors and terrible things. And unfortunately, it doesn't end only there. Shuls, but they Knesset have this problem as well. Jealousy and power struggles and shares and non-profit organizations, the same exact problems. These things, it's true virus that infects, and we have to be above. We have to struggle, and that is what Nechemia is trying to do, and that's why he resorts to prayer. He doesn't want to stoop down. He doesn't want to ruin his soul by fighting this type of a fight. Pasuk Yud Zayin. Let's continue. גם בימים ההם מרבים חורי יהודה איגרותיהם הולכות על טוביה ואשר לטוביה באות עליהם. So during all this time, the Jewish leaders had been in correspondence with Tovia. So we have Jewish leaders, other parties, awakening at what's going on. People are starting to be afraid. It works. Lashon hara works. Fear works. All of a sudden, it's not just Nechemia anymore. Other parties are popping up. Other people that want to be leaders who are creating ties with Sanballat and Geshem and Tovia. כי רבים ביהודה, פסוק י"ח, 18, כי רבים ביהודה בעלי שבועה לו, כי חתן הוא לשכניה בן ערך, ויוחנן בנו לקח את בת משולם בן ברכיה. We're talking about family ties. Family is very strong, and people will do a lot for families. Many people in Yehuda were on Sanballat's side, possibly, because maybe they were connected with, as the psukim say, family ties. גם טובותיו היו אומרים לפניי, ודבריי היו מוציאים לו, פסוק י"ט, איגרות שלח טוביה ליראן. The Chorim are wealthy, respectable people, and perhaps even hold various positions in previous Jewish, non-Jewish governments. I mean, before Nechemia basically testifies that the fact that there is a constant communication between these Jews and these Jews who are living from within and Tuvia, after everything that happened, it's as if a blanket was lifted and Nechemia sees what's going on right in front of him. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The connections between some of these powerful Jews to Sanballat and Tuvia are as clear as day. And he sees it. And you can't unsee it. And once you see it, you understand what's really going on and what you're up against. The common interests of those friends to Tuvia from among our own Jewish people must have been because of these marriage ties. The Yichusdik Jews, right, tried to convince Nechemia that Tuvia was actually a wonderful person. That's what they say here. Gam tovotav hayu omrim lefanai. These Jews were trying to tell Nechemia, you don't understand Nechemia. You don't get it. Tuvia's a good guy. Sanballat's a good guy. They're wonderful people. They really care about Am Yisrael. Really, just give them a little bit. They'll give you their heart. Just let them do what they want to do, and they'll help you. They'll be your biggest allies. Maybe they even said that without him, without Tuvia, without Sanballat. Before Nechemia arrived to Yerushalayim, it was very hard for Am Yisrael before you came. They were the ones who succeeded in giving us a livelihood to the Jews in Yerushalayim. But amazingly, during the same time, as it turns out, Tuvia continuously sent Nechemia intimidation letters just like Sanballat did. Never ceased. From this Perek Vav, as you see, is a very strong Perek. We see how difficult and complex and intriguing this time period in our Jewish history is. Nechemia is forced to maneuver. He's forced to do things a little bit outside his comfort zone in order to succeed in completing the simple task. We're talking about a simple task of building a wall so that the Jews feel secure. That's it, building a wall. And indeed, 52 days later, a record time in terms of now and even then and even now, Nechemia successfully stands at the end of the building and the wall is intact. So we see what happens with Nechemia 2,500 years ago is exactly what's happening today in our own Knesset. And the solution always existed. It exists then and it exists now. It's called Yirat Shamayim. That's it. It's not about money. It's not about control. It's not about wanting to call the shots. It's just doing the right thing, what's good for Am Yisrael. Hopefully, Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll see if he succeeds after what we see goes on in this perek. So, Be'ezrat Hashem, next week, I'll see you all. Shavua Tov.